In the heart of Toronto, hidden from view, homeless camps stand as a testament to human suffering.
Before we start this video, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think homelessness is going to get better in Canada over the next 5 years, or do you think it's going to get worse? Leave your thoughts about that as we go through these videos, and also take a look at some statistics that are very alarming and show a really negative trend that'll be affecting a lot of people in the coming years. With that being said, let's get started with our very first video.
In the heart of Toronto, hidden from view, homeless camps stand as a testament to human suffering. Amidst the urban landscape, makeshift tents house those who endure unimaginable hardships, hunger, cold, and despair. Their silent cries for help echo in the shadows of skyscrapers, pleading for compassion and understanding. It's time to open our hearts and minds, to extend a helping hand to those who have been forgotten. Let us stand united in our commitment to change, to build a future.
That just seems so dystopian. You have these massive skyscrapers where people are working there who make $100,000+ a year, even more than that in some cases. And then you have people literally trying to survive out in tents, heating food up with campfires, maybe trying to go to food banks to get food as well if they need it. And then sometimes they just go into despair and turn to drugs. They might have even had a habit or an addiction before, and it got out of control. They couldn't handle the daily life of stress. And then after a series of unfortunate events, land themselves in homeless encampments like these tents here in Toronto. And this isn't just something that's happening in Toronto. This is obviously happening all over Canada, especially in the big cities. So here's a chart that basically lists how many factors there are for people who are homeless in Canada. This is actually from StatsCan, so take that with a grain of salt. I think it's pretty accurate. So this statistic here, percentage of reference persons with shelter or unsheltered homelessness experience 53.6% one factor, 23.9% two factors, and 22.5% three or more factors that led them to homelessness. Now, percentage of reference persons with hidden homelessness experience. So this is people who probably couch surf. They might have a lot of friends that support them so they won't end up on the streets. 66% one factor, 19.8% two factors, and 14.2% three or more factors. Leave your thoughts about that down below. Also, let me know, do you know anyone in your life who is experiencing the latter? I'd love to hear those comments as well down below in the comment section.
This is how many homeless people there are in Ontario. Nearly 80,000 people. This is what the weather looks like for most of Ontario. Certain parts, it's going to feel more like it's minus 30 or 35 degrees Celsius. This is the benefits that refugees get. Under the RAP program, which I'll show you in a second, they receive a monthly allowance of $1,900. They're entitled to an extra $949. They can get an extra $1,800, an extra $500, and then an extra allowance to start up of $8,300. That's over $70,000 a year they get. And don't take it from me, this is on the Government of Canada's website. You see, Immigration, Refugee, Citizen. This is the Resettlement Assistance Program, RAP. And this is the list of benefits they get. Furniture, linens, basic household, staples, clothing, utility, school startup, assistance loan, food and incidentals, transportations, communications, age of majority, dietary allowance, maternity leave, newborn allowance, exceptional allowance, funeral or burial, child benefits. It goes on and on and on. This is going to cost us a record $16 billion annually. And yet, no priority, not even a fraction of those dollars, are given to Canadian citizens.
You think that's $16 billion that could go to help the homelessness situation in Canada, but instead it is helping asylum seekers and refugees. And hey, nothing against people who want to escape war, escape poverty. But unfortunately, Canada, a lot of Canadians are slipping into poverty. So where is the help for them? This is a scene that you're going to see a lot if you drive through areas. This is in BC. Something that I've seen a lot when I've lived in Toronto. Very unsettling, a lot of tents. In BC, they don't have the same winters that you would have in maybe Toronto, Winnipeg especially, which is really cold, and even places in Alberta like Edmonton and Calgary.
This is interesting. With all the homelessness and people lined up at food banks in Toronto, these sick, twisted, corrupt Toronto City Councillors decide to vote to give themselves a 24% pay raise. I guess they work for themselves.
24% pay raise. They're giving it to themselves while everyone else is dealing with inflation. Not saying they're not dealing with inflation, but you could argue that the government had a pretty heavy hand in creating that inflation. Then you also have all the people who are homeless, $16 billion of spending that could be there to help them, and instead they're giving themselves 24% raises. Leave your thoughts about that one down below in the comment section. It just makes me think of that Michael Jackson song, you know, all I'm really saying is they don't really care about us. I don't know. That's literally what comes to my mind when I saw that video.
This is a beautiful Canadian spring day in Toronto. And what's even more Canadian than snow on April 2nd is our Canadian healthcare system, universal healthcare. And one thing that people don't think about is that when it's cold outside, actually our hospitals are frontline homeless shelters. That's what they end up being used as. And that's a real problem. And we have to think of housing as healthcare. And when we think about the backlogs in our Canadian healthcare system, that's one of the things we have to think about. So as we're enjoying this beautiful weather, as we always do, just keep that in mind. And another thing is that I read an interesting Instagram post this morning talking about how Singapore has an amazing healthcare system, and what they basically do is preventative healthcare and distributed healthcare models. So instead of focusing on building hospitals, they actually focus on building decentralized healthcare clinics that people can go to access healthcare before things get so severe that they need the emergency room. So this is something to think about. The more we can do to help people get access to healthcare and better housing, the better we all will be, but the better off we'll all be when it comes to healthcare spending and accessing healthcare here in beautiful, cloudy, snowy Toronto, Canada.
And that is true because if you really think about the healthcare system, that it can make the homelessness situation a lot worse if people don't get preventative healthcare, because if they just end up in the emergency room and then health conditions get so severe that they might have a job that they have to leave after that and maybe go on EI, and then when the EI runs out, you run into more trouble, and then you're in this weird cycle. And preventative healthcare is a topic that we could discuss more in another video. I want to stay a little bit more on the homelessness side today, but preventative healthcare is something that even my wife said is really kind of ridiculous. In Canada and Brazil, where she's from, you do have public healthcare, but you have a wide range of private healthcare that you can access as well if you want something specifically done, and it's not going to cost you an arm or leg. Like if you're going to get private healthcare in Canada, it's really going to cost you a lot of money. And what I mean by preventative healthcare is like if you want to go see a specialist, let's say you want to see a dermatologist, first here in Canada, you have to go to a family doctor, which is already backlogged like crazy. And then they check it out and then they write you a prescription, or they like send you to a doctor that's more specific in handling your issue. That's like an extra step that you don't really need. And it also creates a massive backlog and just clogging of this healthcare system, which is free. And we used to have a really good healthcare system in Canada. And I would argue it's definitely getting worse over the last few decades, and definitely since the pandemic.
So let's talk Mark Carney's new housing plan that he unveiled yesterday, most of which he stole from Pierre. But let's go into his little twist with his $35 million government corporation who's going to get into the business of building houses and developing the land, building the homes. His plan, mostly revolving around modular homes, speaks nothing to ownership. But do you know who is in the business of building homes, multi-residential buildings, and property management? Brookfield Residential, a subsidiary of Brookfield Asset Management. Who do we know that has a bunch of stock holdings over $6 million in a company called Brookfield?
Yeah, and that is someone who could benefit immensely with the housing crisis and building a lot of these homes. Now, I don't know if this housing plan will actually work, but it's definitely causing mixed reactions. Leave your thoughts about this housing plan that Mark Carney is proposing down below in the comment section. Do you think it will actually make a difference, or do you think that Pierre's housing plan is better regardless? We have a huge issue on our hands in Canada, and I'm hoping that things will get better in the future. With that being said, I hope you guys learned something from today's video. If you did, leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.